Welcome to Chaos, Courage and Coffee, the podcast for anyone who's felt like on the outside I'm holding it together, but inside I'm struggling.
And we do it with honesty, heart, and just enough coffee to get through the day.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you?
Too bad. It's getting a little chilly here, so I'm a little bit wrapped up, and I've also got a little bit of a bad throat. So, apart from that, everything's tickety-boo.
We all have those moments, don't we? Good days, bad days, and the weather's changing. It's cooling down here as well. Obviously, we're in the southern hemisphere, so yes, it's starting to get into winter time.
Well, the thing with life actually is, this isn't the topic, I'm sure. But anyway, the thing with life is nothing stays the same. Everything's like an ebb and flow and changing. So I did learn that some years ago because I'd think, oh, great, I've got everything sussed. My life's going really well now. Yay, we've made it. And then, woo, next down or next issue hit. So, and then I eventually, after this happening lots of times, thought, oh, that's life. You don't arrive. It's just a continual thing of ups and downs and rounds.
I think you're right, and yeah, we're not on a topic, but we seem to be going somewhere, so let's just run with it. Um, I think that sometimes we have an expectation that it's all just up and up and up, or it's going to go up and plateau. We forget that life is like a mountain range. There are ups and there are downs. And it's interesting that I think sometimes we get so focused on continual improvement that we forget that it's okay to slip back. It's about, I think, in the longer term, having more ups than downs. That's not to say that the downs are bad. Sometimes the downs are necessary. But if we're looking for progress, then 2 steps forward, 1 step back is still progress. The net result is still 1 step forward. And I think that's important. But I think also that, as I said, it's we need to recognize that we have down days. The seasons, as you just mentioned. So I said we're coming into winter. It's summers and spring, times of growth and renewal and warmth and all the sunshine and all that sort of thing. And winter, autumn, or fall for those in the US, is a period of, I suppose, metaphorically dying off. The trees are losing their leaves, those sorts of things. Animals start going into hibernation or they migrate. And then we've got winter where there isn't much growth. And I think if we look at life in that context, then it's a really good metaphor for the stages of our lives that we go through, in that there are periods of sunshine and growth and there are periods of not so much sunshine, maybe a retraction, pulling back, and a little bit of stagnation.
I would love to show you a picture that I saw, and hopefully we can put it on this podcast.
Mhm.
It's just such a brilliant one to explain. I'm going to explain it, but hopefully by the time you're listening, there is a picture as well. But it shows a graph and it shows this big down. And imagine, say, like the stock market or something, and we have this big down, and it's like, oh my gosh, that is a massive drop. If it's the stock market in money or us in what's going on in our lives, a big drop down. And then the next picture zooms out and it shows the rest of the graph that's going like this. And literally, that's just a little drop compared to the big picture that's going up.
Yep.
And I'm like, yes, that is so what our lives are like. And the other thing I want to say to something you said is, yeah, we have these downs, and sometimes they can be big downs, or they can certainly feel like big downs. And I think you said something like, we want to have more ups and downs. But I think what's also interesting is what we focus on. Now, a big down, and we can focus on that, and we could focus on it for months or years, like a relationship ending. Oh my God, that can consume you for years and years. And then zoom out, and over let's say 80 years of your life, it was a blip. It was that much. But at the time, you can actually use that to say, my whole life's a disaster, everything's gone wrong, blah, 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 blah. So I think it's such a fascinating topic, which seems to be the ups and downs of life. And I think it's about understanding the big picture and that this is what life is and not getting caught up in these small ones. I know you can't ignore them, but the question then is, well, what do we do with these? The ups are great and we can celebrate them, but the downs hit us hard, don't they? And so what are we supposed to do with these downs?
I think interesting question, and I'm trying to find my words. Uh, I think when we have those downs, I think we need to recognize that in a lot of circumstances, it is temporary. It's only the impact is what we want it to be, or is what we make it to be. We have a choice in how we respond to the downs. Now, I'm not saying to simply ignore them and move on with life, because it's important to us. And that's why we're feeling down, because something, if it's a relationship that's just ended, that was obviously important to us, and we're feeling whatever we're feeling, sorrow, loss, we might be grieving the relationship or whatever it might be. And that's okay. You're absolutely entitled to feel that way. It's when it starts taking over your life. And I think the answer to your question, what do we do about it? We need to apply perspective. And I think it's important, as you say, if we just focus on this little bit, then we can blow that out of proportion. But if we zoom out and we look at it in the bigger picture, in the bigger context of our lives, then it really is only a small portion. It's a short period of time, and we are able to experience it in the here and now, and be present, and that's absolutely okay, as I said. But we're able to move on and think there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're able to move on from there and start progressing forward and look for the brighter things, the happier moments in life.
Yeah, I'm glad you said the word perspective because it really, really is about the perspective and how we look at it. And so, as you say, if we zoom out again and we put it into perspective. However, there's a slight issue, our emotions. They get in the way and they cloud our lovely logical perspective. So again, if we're looking at the graph of the stock market and it's up and down like this for years, but it's moving in an upward trend, we can logicalize that and say, oh, yes, let's zoom out. Let's look at the down in perspective. Trouble is, when it comes to our emotions, we struggle to step out of the emotional and look at the logical. We can tell ourselves, everyone will tell you, you'll get over it and all of this. It's not actually a sure thing that you'll get over it because it's, like you said, it's your choice. People don't realize it's a choice, but let's gloss over that because you can sit in this, ruminate, and keep it going, and you can keep the emotions going for years. Now, interesting fact, an emotion only lasts. Do you know the answer, Brett? How long does an emotion last?
No, I don't know the answer. Tell me.
90 seconds. 90 seconds is all. And what that means is, how would we keep the emotion going if it only really lasts 90 seconds? We keep it going because of our thoughts. So in an ideal world, we sit through it for 90 seconds and it disappears. But the world isn't ideal.
And we are not perfect.
And no.
So I think you're right. We do. When you're talking about we choose to stay in the emotion and we dwell on it, the word that came up for me is sometimes we wallow in those negative emotions, and it's woe is me, or pity me, or whatever. It sometimes it's not trying to draw attention. It's just feeling bad for ourselves, feeling bad for whatever has happened. But again, it's a choice, and we've talked about these things a lot, and we've both mentioned it today, that it is a choice, and we've we need to sometimes make the decision. I understand the emotions are complex and they can be all consuming, but again, that is a choice that we make to allow the emotions to rule us or take over in the way we've done. Um, so it's picking ourselves up, dusting ourselves off, resilience. All right, getting up again and moving forward. Life doesn't stop just because we've had a knockdown or a broken relationship, whatever. Life goes on, and it's moving past that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not difficult. It absolutely can be difficult, and different circumstances, different times, life can be really tough. But it is what we make it. Life happens for us, doesn't happen to us. So we
Mm.
have a decision.
So what we're saying is, firstly, we're talking about the ups and downs of life. You don't arrive, you haven't got there. Brett's analogy of a mountain is one that I like, where it does have ups and downs as you're working your way to the peak that you might never get to. So it is ups and downs. So I would say the first thing is to accept that. Um, the second thing that we're talking about is what to do with those downs. And a lot of it is to do with perspective and focus. But that's the ideal world, because in the real world, our emotions get in the way. And our emotions are attached to things, and they're attached to a meaning and a feeling. So these become very, very hard to untangle. And I think that's the tricky bit. If you take the relationship, but not just a relationship, anything that happens in life, you were attached to it emotionally. You have to be, otherwise you wouldn't be bothered by it. So the things you're not bothered by, you weren't attached to anyway. So we're only talking about the difficult ones, which are the ones you're emotionally invested in or attached to. And that's the issue that we have, is pulling ourselves out of that. Now, definitely focus is one thing. Like, if you focus only on all the negatives, like say, because you've got ups and downs in life, you might have had 100 downs. Okay, depends how old you are, and it depends which one you count. You've had 100 downs, but you've always also had 100 ups, maybe 200 ups. I don't know. But start looking at those, because otherwise, and this is what we do tend to do, and this is how we can get depressed, because we only see the downs, and then we can blame ourselves. Okay, so my life's really bad. All these bad things have happened. Well, everybody's life has had bad things happen, but also, what are all the good things that have happened? They might be fleeting moments. You may have forgotten them, but you're not balancing it. So you're being really skewed with your thinking. Don't worry, this is human. We all do it. I'm not picking on you. We just tend to amplify the negatives as well because of our emotional attachment. So it
Yeah.
is about being able to step back and look at it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and just sort of where you put your focus, so you get some balance on it before you get too immersed into those negative emotions attached with the negatives.
I think the saying, what you focus on is what you get. If you focus on the negatives, you're going to have more negatives. If you start focusing on, and I think we've talked about this in the past, if you start focusing on or looking for the positives, you will see more positives. And you know, we we are hardwired to look for the dangerous situations. It's a survival instinct that we have, and so the negatives are a survival. The negative emotions are perhaps a survival mechanism for our emotional health or perhaps physical health misplaced. Excuse me. Um, and so that's okay. We're allowed to be that. It's natural to be there. It's about how we choose to move forward from there and recognizing that, the whole topic of what we've been talking about is there are good days and bad days. And we want to keep, progressing, looking for the good days, acknowledging the bad days. We're not saying that you can't have bad days, but acknowledging also that we still have good days. And I just want to throw it out there. This is something I heard only yesterday, actually. For anybody that's having a bad day, you have survived 100% of the worst days of your life.
Yeah, I had that one many years ago as well. I did use that a bit because, yeah, that is the point that you survive them. But I'm also going to throw in, I've got a coaching colleague who doesn't like us to say the negatives because who says they're negative? Who says they're bad? They're actually an opportunity to learn something. But more than that, when you feel one of those emotions that we call negative emotions, and by the way, we have way more labels for negatives than we do for positive. It's about a 5 to 2. Anyway, that's an aside. Those emotions that we call negative, they're actually really, really useful. And we actually try and ignore them and push them away. So that's why we shouldn't really call them negative. They're flags. They are saying something's not sitting right with you. You need to address it. Because think, if we only had positive emotions, we would learn nothing, we wouldn't grow, and you'd end a relationship and feel all happy, learn nothing. So the whole thing is the negative emotion is telling you something's not sitting right with you. So you actually don't really want to be ignoring it. And you don't want to wallow in it, but you do want to engage with it and say, what are you trying to tell me? What is this about? What's going on here for me? What do I need to address? Because that's what it's telling you.
So instead of negative emotions, do we call them unpleasant emotions?
I nearly said we call them unresourceful, but then I've just actually said that they're very handy. So yes, this is why we go back to calling them negative because we don't have another word for it. The below the line emotions, let's say. I like to think, positive ones are when we're kind of in a higher frequency. The negative ones are below and in a lower frequency. It's not bad. That's the point that we've got to get across. So call them what you like and carry on calling them negative if you wish, but they're not bad.
No, they're not bad. And I think you're right. They serve a purpose. They're sending a message. And we've said, and I've said it multiple times today, it's okay to experience these. It's what we choose to do next, how we choose to move forward and process the emotions that's important and recognizing them. And I think, so what do we do? I've said several times, we need to recognize them, accept them, and move on.
But that's interesting, you see, because I was going to pick up on that because you said, oh, it's how we choose to move forward. And I'm like thinking, but that's the point. Do we choose to move forward? And how do we choose to move forward? Because that's the point, is to get past this, not to ditch it altogether. And in fact, ditching it altogether or ignoring it is completely the wrong thing to do, by the way. We need to acknowledge it, engage with it, not wallow in it, learn something from it. And then we do need to be forward focused, because if we're not, we're just going to look at all our past and all the negative bad stuff. And then we project that into our future. I find, so I've been through grieving in my life. So that was a very below the line time. And I'm quite a positive person. So I found it hard to get back above that line. But forward focus is definitely the thing. And if you can put some positives into your life as well, so you can have pockets of enjoyment. Again, you're not taking away that you're going through a bad phase. And it could just be a day. Like, we're not talking about big relationships ending. I have days where it's just a bad day. I've decided, actually, I didn't get enough sleep, I'm grumpy, whatever. Actually, I choose not to engage in those. I don't really think they've got much purpose in my life. So I just think, okay, that's a bad day. Or that's, and my daughter once, this was really good. She learnt this from me. It's like, when you start and your day starts to go wrong before it's barely started. And I used to write that off. Okay, that's a bad day. Let's just write off this whole day. And then it happened so much. I was like, I'm losing days here. I can't write off every day it happens. And she had this. So it started off a bad day. And she goes, right, I'm going to nip that in the bud. I'm not going to let the whole day be bad. So on the way to work, she decided to pop into the cafe. And she got a coffee and she got a Danish. And I can't remember what was wrong with the Danish, but the Danish wasn't good. So then that was another negative in the day. So she had to do another restart. She goes, no, this is not to spoil my day. I will now start the day again. It's now 10 a.m. Let's start again. I can't remember where I was going with that. I took myself completely off track, but it's about being forward focused. Was that where I was going with it? and
I
putting some good things in your day.
Yeah, I think it is about the recognizing that, looking for the good things, not focusing on the bad things that have happened in the past. So the bad morning, the bad Danish, whatever, but looking forward and saying, okay, that's the end of that. Let's move on and draw a line in the sand and start again.
And putting in some good things. So that's what happened for me when I was doing my going through my big grieving. I put in good things, and where they didn't exist, because sometimes it's really hard to see them or put them in, especially in the low mode you're in. I imagined the future of when I would have arrived at this new, better, higher frequency time. So in my head, it was there. I was heading towards the light at the end of the tunnel. Couldn't even see the light, but I was heading towards it. So it is about forward momentum to the positives. So try and put them in though. Try and notice the small ones. You have a bit of a laugh with a friend. They said something funny or silly. Start counting all those small micro moments. Don't discount them. They can build up.
Is this, I'm going to throw this out there. Is this where some gratitude, as hard as it might be, can be effective for people?
I don't use gratitude. Sorry. I'll throw that one in there now just to really put a spanner in the works. I find gratitude is almost a forced thing. Looking for positives in your life, yes, but not trying to make them out. Oh, I'm so grateful for the sun. It's like, no, unless I'm really enjoying that sun beating down on my face, I feel I'm fighting my natural feeling, and I don't agree with creating that internal conflict. So, gratitude in terms of go and do some positive things. If you've got a friend who generally makes you feel good, go and spend some time with them. Go and watch a feel good movie. Bank up those positives, because you've got to counterbalance the heaviness that you're feeling.
Yep. And I think that's, so for my mind, that is the gratitude, being grateful for that friend and that good experience with that friend, or that feel good movie and the way it made you feel at that time. That's the gratitude that, for me, that's the way I exercise it, or practice gratitude. It's gratitude for the moments that are good, for the things that I particularly took away from the day.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about putting them in there, not retrospectively going, oh, I'm really grateful for that friend I saw today. Is actually actively going, this thing is going to make me feel good. I'm going to go and do it. So it's like a little cheat sheet. And I do make my clients do this. Have a credits and a debits list. The things that you enjoy and make you feel good. And have that list so that when you're having a bad day, you can quickly look at the list and go, right, which one of those can I do that's going to start giving my bank of credits back, because I've gone into the negative. It's just like a bank account. I'm now, overdrawn, and I need to get my credits. So get your list. What from your credits can you pop in today or tomorrow?
Okay. I think that's a good topic maybe for another day, is throwing things into our lives, or taking deliberate action to try to feel better. The things that we enjoy.
Mm.
And as you say, um, almost scheduling them in gives us something to
Not
look forward
almost,
to.
not almost. Actually do it. Not even almost.
Yeah.
Do it. Like literally, that's what I did to get myself through. Yes. Put in the positives. Look, hey, you can do this. You don't have to be having a bad time to use this exercise. Just you're going through life. Put in the positives. Do you know the things I've done this week? I went to the movies because it was fun. I went to eat out at the food trucks with my dinner. Just put in the positives to keep your credits up. And then when you do get hit with a bad one, you might not go overdrawn. And I'm serious. That's it's true. All
Well,
right,
there you
let's
go.
summarize, shall we?
I think we should. So it's okay to have bad days, but it's very important to recognize that there are good days and bad days. And we're looking to some degree to balance those out again. What else?
No, well, that's such a great summary. And then it was just about, so it was acknowledging it. And then it's like, what are you going to do about it? And it is actively putting things in place. Like, don't just sit there waiting. You can, with proper grieving, they say time heals. And I always say to people, it doesn't if you don't do anything with it. So you've got to put those things in place. So it's as simple as that. Acknowledge life has ups and downs. It's going to all the time. Life is ups and downs. If you've escaped that, I don't know what room you're living in. You're living in some locked room somewhere. Um, and if your life is feeling all down without the ups, the onus is on you. So take action, do things, put it in place. It's not going to happen for you. And if it does, it's great. But you know what? You can speed the whole process up by doing it yourself.
And just remember, you have survived 100% of the worst days of your life.
Brilliant place to end. Thank you, Brett. I love that one.
Thanks, Vanessa. And thank you, everybody.
Thanks for being with us today on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. Remember, you're not alone and you don't have to figure it all out at once. What part of today's conversation stood out for you?
This podcast is about showing up in the mess, not waiting until it's all sorted out. If today helped, share it with someone else who might need it too.
And if you're navigating your own version of chaos, we'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment, message us, or join the conversation.
We'll be back soon with more honest talk, less pressure, and just enough courage to get through whatever's next.
See you next time on Chaos, Courage and Coffee.